It seems that in the 2016 city council election, one of the more emotional issues had to do with allowance of citizen participation actually at the city council meetings. So, can you address how that's changed since last year?
Yeah, there were actually there were three issues, right? In the previous 10-year administration, one was the same individuals were either led or participating in the same committees, for very long periods of time. And our former P&Z chairman, who I do not know personally, he could be the greatest guy in the world, but he was the chairman of that committee for 10 years, and that's not healthy for a community. You need different perspectives. We needed fresh blood for sure. I mean, that's one issue, fresh perspectives. Number two, the previous administration actually started reducing the number of citizen committees, and we were eliminating them. We saw no need for them. Well, that's of course because a lot of decision making and control was being managed by a few individuals, at the city council level who had been there for a very, very long time, 10 years or more in some cases. And so what we've really tried to change is, to open that up. So look, the first thing we did was flush the system. And again, that's not to disparage anybody that served on any of those committees for all those years. We absolutely appreciate their service, but we needed fresh perspectives. And we needed more people to have a turn. And so in the meantime, we're also expanding the number of committees. We're actually taking a citizen and putting them on our audit committee so that there's actually a representative from the community that looks at our financials through the same filter that we're looking at and can offer a different perspective. As an example, if you watch any of these committees now, you'll see these are people with a lot of experience, a lot of varied backgrounds, and they are feeding the process on their own. They don't need our filter. And frankly, I mean, this is where the term limits came in. I mean, it's the same principle. We want the residents, the people that live here and pay taxes here and go to school here and raise their families here, in control of our government. We don't want professional or semi-professional politicians, whose mission is basically to occupy that seat forever. We want people who want to do the right thing for Colleyville. And we want it to be the people that live here, and we want them participating in the process and running our government, not politicians, not people who are conflicted by personal agendas and or ability to monetize their role in local government.
We hear a lot from citizens that are concerned about our street infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a huge sensitivity of mine. Look, for years now we've debated how to do 26 and how to do Glade Road, and in the meantime, a lot of what we call our arterial road infrastructure has completely deteriorated. I mean, the one thing as a city council person that I'm absolutely embarrassed about Colleyville is the condition of a lot of our roadways. And so, this year, one of the things that we did was we said, hey, look, if we're gonna focus on core services, and core services means public safety, police and fire, number one priority. I mean, we're one of the safest communities in Texas, with credit to our predecessors. They're absolutely a part of that legacy, and we're going to sustain it. It's the most important thing. But number two is infrastructure. And a big part of infrastructure is our road system. And I mean, if you drive down Pleasant Run, it's disgraceful. If you drive down LD Lockett, it's disgraceful. We did fix part of Westcote. We fixed a little bit of Pleasant Run. But we're going to fix a lot more streets a lot faster. And we made sure that the budget reflected that. And we actually managed to, in this budget year, to cut the budget, to eliminate kind of some non-core services or positions, and at the same time accelerate those capital investments in improving our streets. Another part of that is just the philosophy about how to improve. The previous administration wanted to concrete up this town, curb and gutter everywhere. We believe this fundamentally, that most citizens in this town don't want that. There's another process called full depth reclamation, which lasts almost as long, as a concrete infrastructure and costs half as much money. And with ribbon curbing, it protects kind of the semi-rural character elements of this town that make us unique and that people value, and that helps our real estate values. And by the way, Southlake does a lot of this similar type of road redevelopment, and they've had great success with it.
This most recent council actually dropped the tax rate. Is that not true?
That's correct. So that is actually the first tax rate cut in the history of Colleyville. You get these massive appraisal increases, which in the last 2 years have been really dramatic in our community. but then the city doesn't, reduce that impact with a corresponding tax rate decrease. They just rake all the extra revenue. And so there's this concept called effective tax rate, which basically means that, and the city has to disclose it every year, and it basically means that the city is going to take out new development and the taxes on new development, but we're otherwise going to manage revenue neutral. In other words, for the number of people that were living here in the homes that were homesteaded here in the previous year, we don't need additional revenue in order to manage operations. And so our new philosophy, rather than taking all that revenue from those appraisal increases, which has been the practice for the last 10 years and an explosive growth period, has been to say we're going to manage as close as possible to revenue neutral. Now, sometimes you got to go a little bit more than revenue neutral because things are becoming more expensive, like the cost of us providing health care. And so the idea here is that we're going to protect the taxpayer. And Colleyville has optically a very low tax rate. But what most people don't understand is because of TAD and because of our skyrocketing appraisal values, we have one of the highest tax burdens, of any community in Dallas-Fort Worth. I think we are maybe 6th. And that means that, look, regardless of what the tax rate is, we pay more taxes than most other communities. And so, you look at that on a per capita basis, what the taxpayer has to weigh is, well, am I getting a fair set of services? Now, what I will say about Colleyville is that I think maybe 15% of your overall property tax bill goes to pay for your city services. I think the average tax bill is about $1,500 per resident. I actually think that's pretty good value, for the services that we provide today, but that doesn't mean that we have to take in every additional dollar of revenue that the county is going to afford us. And really, at the end of the day, it's an issue of accountability. So historically, politicians in local government pointed to TAD and go, well, it's their fault. And TAD points at the local politicians in cities or the school board and goes, well, it's their fault. Well, we're here to say, look, we're going to own our end of the problem in Colleyville. And so if you're going to get hit by the county with a 10% tax increase, we're going to mitigate that as much as we possibly can by lowering the tax rate. And that is a practice, we'll continue to manage going forward.